ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වරට SLT 4G වෙතින් දැන් PO TV නරඹන්න. ඉදිරියටම ගෙන යන SLT 4G.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, wide off the mark, Mahindananda's match-fixing claims no-balled by the ICC, Police and Sports Ministry. Home remedies. UNHRC urged to focus on local measures given zero results after years of external framework. Panic dispelled. Health officials say no threat of community spread after Jintupitia virus scare. Terminal issues. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa appoints committee to study stalled Jaya and East Container Terminal. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Friday, the 3rd of July, 2020.
Nava Sunlight Sakura. Then Dikukal Pavatina Sakura Mal Suandin.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Ekanaika. Now, health authorities confirm that the COVID-19 infection recorded from the area of Kotahena yesterday is in fact not a community transmission. There was speculation on social media to the tune that it may have been a community transmission of the coronavirus. Health authorities confirmed that the patient in question had been in a 14-day self-isolation process after undergoing quarantine at a dedicated facility where he had tested negative for the virus. In more good news, Sri Lanka's total of active COVID-19 cases dipped below the 200 line for the first time today, boosting the island's recovery rate past 90%.
A total of 12 COVID-19 infections were confirmed within the country yesterday. 5 of them were identified as returnees from Kuwait, another 5 from Qatar, and the remaining 2 from India. Meanwhile, a sea marshal who tested positive for the COVID-19 virus in the area of Gintupitia in Kotahena yesterday was identified as a Sri Lankan returnee from India. Despite testing negative for the virus during a PCR test conducted after completing 14 days of quarantine at the Busa Naval Base, he did however test positive for the virus during a PCR test performed while undergoing another 14 days of self-quarantine at his residence in Gintupitia.
දින 61කට පසුව කොළඹ නගරය තුලින් එක් කොරෝනා ආසාදිත රෝගී වාර්තා වීම සිදු වුණා. ඔහුව බූස් නිරෝධායන මධ්‍යස්ථානයේ සති දෙකක් ඒ නිරෝධායනයට ලක් වෙලා තුරු සති දෙක නිරෝධායන කිරීම සඳහා මේ ජීන්තුපිටිය ප්‍රදේශයේ කොටහෙන ප්‍රදේශයට එවලා තිබුණා. ඒ පැමිණි දිනයේ මේ 26 වෙනිදා එදින සිටම නිරෝධායනයට ලක් කරලා තිබුණා. නමුත් ඔහුගේ තිබුණු අඩි අවදානම් තත්ත්වය සලකලා ආවේක්ෂණ කටයුතු වල ඍජු ප්‍රතිඵලයක් ලෙස කරන ලද PCR පරීක්ෂණයේදී ඔහු පොසිටිව් බවට අපිට දැනගන්න ලැබුණා. ඉතින් මෙය 아무තු දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. මෙය මේ රෝගයේ ස්වභාවයයි. කාලයක් ගිහිල්ලා තමයි පොසිටිව් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. අපි ඔහුගේ පවුලේ බොහෝ දෙනෙකුත් මේ අවට ජීවත් වෙන අයත් අපි පරීක්ෂා කරනු ලැබුවා. ඔවුන් නෙගටිව් බවට අපිට හඳුනා ගන්නට පුළුවන් වුණා. මේ පොසිටිව් වුණ පුද්ගලයා අපි මේ වන විට IDH රෝහල කරා යොමු කරලා තිබෙනවා.
However, Director General of Health Services Dr. Anil Jasinger said that this infection will not be considered a community transmission and cannot be considered a threat to the community. The infected sea marshal's house, meanwhile, was disinfected today. What's more, 29 families residing in the area have also been sent to the Kandakadu quarantine centre. On a positive note, the country recorded its highest ever COVID-19 recovery rate of 90.17% today, with 36 persons being given the all clear to go home after recovering from the virus. That puts the total number of coronavirus recoveries in the island at 1,863. What's more, the country's existing number of active cases dipped below the 200 mark today, with only 192 COVID-19 patients being under treatment. At this rate, the island will be free of any coronavirus cases before too long. In other developments, 300 Sri Lankans were repatriated from Vietnam, Japan, Qatar and the Maldives and were sent to quarantine after undergoing PCR tests. Meanwhile, with the Department of Motor Traffic resuming operations as usual from the 1st of July, it stated that the public no longer needs to make bookings in advance with the department to sort out issues that come under the purview of the Department of Motor Traffic. In the meantime, the Department of Census and Statistics has requested medium and large-scale businesses to participate in a survey conducted by the department to identify the impact of COVID virus on the economy. Businesses can take part in the survey via this link.
Now, Sri Lanka has raised surveillance along its northern coast to prevent Sri Lankan refugees from India attempting to return by boats owing to the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Governor of the Northern Province, P.S.M. Charles, was quoted by an Indian media outlet saying that the Navy, the Coastal Police, Grama Seva officers and fisher folk have been put on alert. The Northern Province Governor had said that information has been received that some of the refugees are trying to leave India because of the corona situation there and that they might just hop on fishing boats and enter Sri Lanka illegally. The media outlet quoted authorities in Tamil Nadu denying any large-scale attempts by refugees to leave India illegally. Now, the investigations conducted by the Ministry of Sports into alleged match-fixing allegations that were raised by former Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage came to an end today after evidence recorded thus far had provided no information as to any instance of match-fixing. With that being the case, the International Cricket Council's Anti-Corruption Unit 2 said that they have not received any evidence on the claims and that they have no reason to doubt the integrity of the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup Final 2011. Although the former minister alleged that the 2011 Men's Cricket World Cup Final, in which India defeated Sri Lanka, was fixed, he offered no evidence to back up his claims.
The string of events that unfolded with former Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage raising allegations pertaining to alleged match-fixing in the final of the 2011 Cricket World Cup came to an end today. Despite the Ministry of Sports conducting investigations into the allegations through a special investigative unit that summoned Kumar Sangakkara yesterday and Mahela Jayawardena today, police spokesperson SSP Jaliya Senaratne stated that the ministry had to halt investigations due to the lack of sufficient evidence. He further said that investigations and evidence recorded thus far have failed to uncover any information regarding any instance of match-fixing, and therefore the investigative unit of the Sports Ministry has decided to halt further investigations. In this backdrop, the International Cricket Council's Anti-Corruption Unit General Manager Alex Marshall has responded to allegations of corruption with regards to the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup 2011 final. He stated that the ICC's Integrity Unit has looked into the recent allegations and that they have not been presented with any evidence to support the claims made, or which would merit launching an investigation under the ICC's Anti-Corruption Code. He added that the ICC have no reason to doubt the integrity of the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup final in 2011. Marshall went on to say, quote, "Should we receive any evidence to corroborate the claims, we will review our current position," unquote.
The Easter Attacks Presidential Commission heard evidence from the former Terrorist Investigation Division DIG Waruna Jayasundara, who currently serves as the Commandant of the Police Special Task Force. The DIG told the Commission that although an intelligence document containing what he determined to be crucially important information had been forwarded to him by IGP Pujit Jayasundara, no detailed instructions on specific action had accompanied it. The Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating the Easter Sunday attacks recorded evidence from Commandant of the Special Task Force, Deputy Inspector General of Police Waruna Jayasundara yesterday, who was the Director of the Terrorist Investigation Division at the time of the attacks. At the outset, the Commission asked the witness if an intelligence document warning of the attacks was received. He responded that IGP Pujit Jayasundara had forwarded him a document labelled Eyes Only, sent to him by State Intelligence Director Nilantha Jayawardena on the 10th of April in 2019. The witness revealed that copies of the document had been sent to the DIG of the Western Province, the Commandant of the Special Task Force and the DIG of the Special Security Division. He added that although the IGP had called for immediate action on the warning, nowhere had he noted any detailed instructions on what specific action should be taken. The Commission was told by the witness that despite this lack of instructions, he himself had determined the importance of the warning and the seriousness of the threat. Following this, the witness revealed that he then summoned the officer in charge of the Terrorist Investigation Division and its Assistant Superintendent of Police and told them, quote, "There is a problem. There is going to be an attack," unquote. DIG Jayasundar added that he then handed over the letter with handwritten instructions to the duo for further action, as due to the confidential nature of the document, no copies could be made of it. Now, in other news, Sri Lanka urged the United Nations Human Rights Council and all parties to recognise the realities on the ground and focus on deliverable reconciliation measures backed by people's mandate in the interest of Sri Lanka and its people, instead of opting to continue with an externally driven framework that has failed to deliver genuine reconciliation for over 4.5 years. These remarks were delivered by Sri Lanka's acting permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva, Derana Mendes, yesterday during the 5th meeting of the 44th regular session of the Human Rights Council. During the session, United Nations Human Rights Commissioner presented an annual report on human rights, including an oral update on COVID-19. And on that front, Sri Lanka's acting permanent representative told the Council that the Sri Lankan government's approach in containing the pandemic has been inclusive, non-discriminatory and holistic.
Sri Lanka's acting permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva, Derana Mendes, delivered a statement in response to the oral update presented by the United Nations Human Rights Commissioner on the situation of human rights worldwide yesterday.
In continuation of our commitment to constructive engagement, we will be making a voluntary contribution of $5,000 to the OHCHR in 2020. Sri Lanka has successfully contained the spread of COVID-19 with zero social transmission since 1st May 2020. With only 11 deaths, the COVID-19 fatality rate in Sri Lanka stands at only 0.54%, while the recovery rate stands at 83.59%, both significantly more positive than the corresponding global rate. The steps taken by the government to curb the spread of the virus did not at any point involve resorting to emergency measures that would have required derogations from the exercise of fundamental freedoms, but was strictly limited to minimum temporary restrictions on movement in the interest of public health, in accordance with due process of law, with the aim of protecting right across the country all sections of society during this pandemic, which too were fully lifted on 28 June 2020. With regard to the views expressed on Tuesday by the core group on Resolution 30/1 on Sri Lanka, UK, Canada, Germany, North Macedonia and Montenegro, the government of Sri Lanka has made clear that even as it withdraws from co-sponsorship of Resolution 30/1, it remains committed to achieving reconciliation, accountability and human rights within the framework of the Sri Lankan Constitution through a domestically designed and executed process in line with the government's policy framework. We urge all parties once again to recognize the realities on the ground and appreciate this approach of focusing on deliverable measures of reconciliation, which is backed by a people's mandate and is in the interest of Sri Lanka and its people, instead of opting to continue with a framework driven externally that has failed to deliver genuine reconciliation for over 4.5 years.
We will see you shortly after this break. Stay tuned.
කොරෝනා වෛරසය පැතිරීම වළක්වන්න සබන් යොදා දෑත් සෝදන්න.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has appointed a 5-member committee to examine and report on the concerns regarding the development of Jaya Container Terminal and the East Container Terminal of the Colombo port. The committee is required to submit their report within 45 days from today. Meanwhile, earlier in the day, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa gave the green light to unload the gantry cranes at the East Container Terminal, following which trade unions of the Colombo port called off their strike.
Since Wednesday, 3 Sri Lankan ports trade union members have been engaged in a hunger strike atop one of the 3 Chinese-made gantry cranes imported for the Colombo East Container Terminal, which remain languishing aboard a Chinese cargo ship, calling for them to be unloaded and put into operation as demurrage costs continue to pile up. With that, all port staff engaged in strike action in support of the move. However, following a meeting with Minister of Roads and Highways, Ports and Shipping, Johnston Fernando last evening, where the promise of a meeting with Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa was given, the strike was temporarily halted. Accordingly, a meeting was held this morning between port trade union representatives and the Prime Minister at Carlton House in Tangol. At the meeting, both parties reached an agreement to unload the gantry cranes with immediate effect. The Prime Minister had also told the union representatives that the proposal for the installation of the gantry cranes at the Colombo East Terminal and the commencement of operations will be taken up for discussion with the Cabinet. Following this, the trade unions called off the strike today.
අපි එකගතාවයකට ඇති වුණා වරායේ බාන්න නැති දොඹකර ඔක්කොම වරායේ බාණ්ඩත් ඉදිරියේදී මේ තියෙන ගිවිසුම් පිළිබඳව කැබිනට් එකට ආම සාකච්ඡා කළා ඒ පිළිබඳව විසඳුම් ලබා දෙන්නත් අගමැතිතුමා පොරොන්දු වුණා
පරාධිකාරියේ සමස්ත වෘත්තීය සමිති සියල්ල 23ක් මෙතෙන්ට ආවා අපේ සටන අවසන් ග්‍රැන්ටි දොඹකර 3 ඊසිටි පර්යන්තයේ ගොඩ බාන්න ගරු අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමා අවසර දුන්නා ඒ උපදෙස් දුන්නා.
In the meantime, this was the reaction of the striking port staff when news of the successful outcome of the discussions reached them. Further, the delegation of union representatives were then welcomed back at the port of Colombo in this manner. The 3 union members who remained atop the gantry cranes finally climbed down and were transported to hospital for medical treatment. In the meantime, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has appointed a 5-member committee to examine and report on the concerns regarding the development of the Jaya Container Terminal or JCT and the East Container Terminal of the Colombo Port. The committee is headed by Secretary to the Ministry of Ports and Shipping MMPK Maya Dunne, Secretary to the Ministry of Industrial Export and Investment Promotion MPDUK Mapa Patirana, Secretary to the Ministry of Roads and Highways RWR Pemasiri, Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Energy Vasanta Perera, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority General Retired RM Daya Ratnayaka were the other members of the committee. The committee is requested to consult relevant line ministries and stakeholders and submit the report within 45 days from today.
Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa commenced a tour of the Anuradhapura district today, where he attended several public campaign activities by Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna candidates from the area. Candidates Duminda Disanayaka, Veerakumara Disanayaka and Anuradhapura district group leader Minister S.M. Chandrasena received the President's endorsement at several public events worked off.
The first round of election campaign activities, attended by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa in support of Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna candidates, was kicked off in the Anuradhapura district today. Under the program, the head of state will meet all SLPP candidates contesting the upcoming general election from the district. With that being the case, the President arrived at the Tammannava Park adjacent to the Iriyagama Lake in Talava with the goal of endorsing the party's Anuradhapura district group leader, Minister S.M. Chandrasena. While there, the President also took time to interact with members of the public and make note of their issues. Meanwhile, traders of the Tambutegama Economic Centre made a donation to the Itukama COVID-19 Healthcare and Social Security Fund and ceremonially handed over a cheque to the President. Later, the head of state attended a public event by the banks of the Kalaweva in support of candidate Duminda Disanayaka, where he received a rousing welcome from members of the public. Afterwards, President Gotabaya visited Katagas Digilia to show his endorsement for SLPP candidate Veerakumara Disanayaka.
Now, officers of the Criminal Investigation Department today recorded a 4-hour-long statement from former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe regarding the Central Bank Treasury bond scam. The statement was recorded at Wickremesinghe's official residence. The Attorney General on the 18th of last month instructed the acting IGP to record statements from several high-profile figures of the former government over the central bank bond scam. Police were directed to record statements from former President Maithripala Sirisena and former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. In addition to the former President and the Prime Minister, statements are also expected to be recorded from former advisor to the Prime Minister S. Bhaskaralingam. 10 suspects, including former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran, are indicted before the 3-member permanent High Court trial at bar. Now, in other local stories, anti-drug operations carried out throughout the country have netted several individuals involved in both distributing and storing related ill-gotten gains. One such suspect arrested in Mulleriyawa today was revealed to be running a heroin distribution operation under instructions received via mobile phone from incarcerated drug racketeer Dematagoda Chaminda.
Following information received by senior DIG in charge of the Western Province, Deshabandhu Tenakun, the Devila police apprehended an individual who was in possession of 1 kilogram of heroin in the area of Moragahena. During interrogations of the suspect, the police uncovered information of a bank account which had been used in drug trafficking operations. The police stated that after going through CCTV footage from a private bank in Attiria, they arrested a 65-year-old individual named Gamini who was addicted to drugs. Accordingly, the police had taken another individual into custody from the area of Belantara, who is suspected of giving instructions and orchestrating the movements of the previously arrested 65-year-old. After producing both suspects before the Horana Magistrates Court, they were further detained. In the meantime, the police also arrested a retired bank official who exchanged money for drug dealers. Meanwhile, the Criminal Investigation Department also seized a stash of heroin destined to be smuggled into prisons.
පවත්වාගෙනවා එක්තරා ආතකින් බැංකුවක් වගේ ස්ථානයක් මේ තමයි මේ ප්‍රදේශයේ මත්ද්‍රව්‍ය ජාවාරම්කාරයෝ Tamanට උපයන මුදල් ගෙනත් දුන්නාම ඒ මුදල් ඔහු විසින් බාර ගන්නවා. මුදල් බාර අරගෙන ඔහු විසින් ඔහුගේ ගෙන මේ මුදල් වලින් ඒ අවශ්‍ය account වලට අවශ්‍ය සල්ලි බැර කරනවා. මාසික වන කාලයක් තුල මොහුගේ පරිගණක දත්ත අනුව ලක්ෂ 65ක වන මුදලක් ඔහු විසින් මත්ද්‍රව්‍ය ජාවාරම්කරුවන්ගේ ගිණුම් වලට බැර කරලා. මත්ද්‍රව්‍ය ජාවාරම්කරු 10 දෙනෙක්ගේ පවත්වාගෙන ගිණුම් 10කට අවශ්‍ය කරන මුදල් ට්‍රාන්ස්ෆර් කිරීම තමයි ඔහු කරන්නේ. ඔහු ඒකදී රුපියල් ලක්ෂයක් සඳහා රුපියල් 9000ක් ආයි කරනවා.
In the meantime, a woman has been arrested in the area of Muleriava by the police special task force. She is suspected of running the drug operations of death row inmate Dematagura Chaminda. Upon taking the woman into custody, the police said that the suspect was in possession of 251 grams of heroin and that during interrogations it was revealed that she had been running the operation with the incarcerated Dematagura Chaminda passing instructions over to her via mobile phone.
We will see you once more on the other side of this break. Bear with us. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the central bank today denied reports of due diligence processes not being followed by authorised dealers, the banks, operating in Sri Lanka in opening and maintaining recently introduced special deposit accounts. It insists that special deposit accounts are still bound by the requirements applicable under the regulations issued by the Financial Intelligence Unit on anti-money laundering, countering the financing of terrorism and the provisions of a Foreign Exchange Act.
In a statement, the CBSL says it categorically denies the views and concerns expressed by few authorities and persons that the required due diligence processes are not followed by banks operating in Sri Lanka in opening and maintaining recently introduced special deposit accounts. It adds that the government of Sri Lanka, in consultation with the Monetary Board of the CBSL, has introduced the SDA with the view to seek assistance for the national effort to overcome the effects of the COVID-19 outbreak by issuing regulations dated 8th of April 2020 under the provisions of the Foreign Exchange Act. The CBSL says that the exemptions from the procedural requirements specified in the said regulations allow an authorized dealer to directly credit funds to a special deposit account without routing such funds through an inward investment account under normal circumstances. The statement notes that the said regulations cannot exempt authorized dealers from complying with provisions of the Foreign Exchange Act. It goes on to say that in this regard, Section 7, Part 6 of the Foreign Exchange Act requires authorized dealers to request the person who engages in a capital transaction to provide information, documents, or make any declaration when it is reasonably necessary to satisfy that the said transaction is in conformity with any other laws regulating such transactions, while Section 9, Part 5 of the FEA requires ADs to keep required information on any foreign exchange transaction engaged in by such dealers for a period of 6 years for the purpose of statistical and monitoring purposes of the CBSL. The CBSL therefore reiterates that the said exemptions in the regulations on special deposit accounts are not related to the requirements applicable under regulations, rules and guidelines issued by the Financial Intelligence Unit of the CBSL on anti-money laundering or countering the financing of terrorism and the provisions of the Foreign Exchange Act. Hence, SDAs are required to be opened and maintained strictly following such laws and requirements.
Now, in your market update, Sri Lankan shares ended lower today, dragged down by losses in financials and industrials. The benchmark CSE All Share Price Index closed down 1.14% at 5,050.9, as Ceylon Coal Stores rose 1.4% and was the biggest boost to the index, while shares of conglomerate John Keel's Holdings were the biggest drag, shedding 3.3%. Foreign investors were net buyers, purchasing 661.9 million rupees worth of shares as trading volume rose to 39.7 million rupees from 37.1 million rupees in the previous session. Now let's take a look at a brief report on today's market performance.
During the week, the ASP lost 2.2%, mainly due to price losses in counters such as John Keel's Holdings, Dialog Axiata and LOLC Holdings. Meanwhile, the S&P SL20 decreased by 4.4%. The average daily turnover for the week was up from last week to 1.5 billion rupees. Bank sector recorded the highest sector turnover during the week, whilst the second highest was seen in capital goods sector. Furthermore, the foreign participation remained active during the week, with foreigners closing as net sellers, where foreign sellings accounted for 37% of the total weekly turnover. A net foreign outflow of 1.13 billion rupees was recorded for the week. This resulted in the year-to-date net foreign outflow to increase to 20.8 billion rupees. Out of the weekly turnover, crossings accounted for 26%, which was a higher proportion than last week.
Now, the rupee was last quoted at 185 rupees and 80 cents against the US dollar today, 0.13% higher for the day compared to last session's close of 186 rupees and 5 cents. Now, let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.